The ninth commandment says don't bear false witness or don't lie. And someone was just sharing with us earlier today that in the workplace, in certain situations, if you don't use the correct pronouns of what a person identifies with, you can lose your job. Yeah, it forces you to break the ninth commandment that says don't lie. So if you're a man and you say that you want to be a woman and you want me to call you a she, when you're really not a she, you're a he, and pressure is being put on me to do that, then what is that but the dragon trying to pressure me to break the ninth commandment?
Right.
By not telling the truth. Welcome again into the studio of White Horse Media in Priest River, Idaho. This is part 3 of a high-impact series called America and the Dragon. I'm here with Rob Knott, my good friend and my associate.
Hi, Steve.
Hi. We've been studying Revelation chapter 13. If you missed part 1 and part 2, we encourage you to go on to our White Horse Media YouTube channel and watch those programs so you can get the foundation for where we are right now. We are discussing America, its role in prophecy, and we are looking especially at the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 11. And Rob, as you know, and those who have watched parts 1 and 2, I'm not going to go into all the details, but we built our case in part 1 that the first beast of Revelation 13 that comes up out of the sea represents the papal power, the Roman Catholic Church system centered in the authority of the Pope. We're not against Catholic people, but we are students of prophecy. We have a little book on that. White Horse Media publishes or makes available called The Antichrist Identified, dealing with the Protestant Reformation and the views of Luther, Calvin, Huss, Jerome, Zwingli, all the great reformers, Charles Spurgeon, the great Baptist pastor in London, they all understood the first beast, Wesley, the Methodist Church, as a symbol of the papal power, which is really the most powerful religion on the planet. Really, it's got the largest number of adherents. The Roman Catholic Church, centered in the Vatican and in the authority of the Pope, is a major player when it comes to world geopolitics. And then the second beast, we built our case that there's no other nation that fits every characteristic other than the United States, which is the most powerful nation on the earth. So we have the most powerful religion and the most powerful nation. We have another little book at White Horse Media called The United States in Bible Prophecy that gives all the reasons why verse 11 can apply to no other nation than America. I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb. And how did he speak?
He spoke like a dragon.
Right. And a lot to talk about there. He spoke as a dragon.
And you mentioned in the last presentation, Steve, that this speaking like a dragon isn't something that is one day lamb-like and tomorrow is dragon-like.
Right.
It's a progression where it's leaving its lamb-like qualities of innocence, of, liberty-loving, you might say, to a coercive, mandate, dragon-like.
That's right.
Persecuting-like.
Exactly. Yeah, Jesus said, he said, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So when verse 11, Revelation 13:11 says he spoke as a dragon, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so this beast is going to finally speak like a dragon because the dragon's influence in its heart has been growing for a while. It's not just going to happen at one moment at the end of time. At least that's my conviction.
Yeah.
That there's a transition going on. Now, in order for us to really understand this verse, and I've thought a lot about this, and this is really why we're doing this series, America and the Dragon, is to really deal with these issues. So the dragon, Rob, in verse 11, this is not the first time the word dragon is used in Revelation. The sequence actually starts in chapter 12.
Right.
Where we have a great red dragon who does certain things. And then in the first part of chapter 13, the dragon gives his authority to the beast.
That's right.
And it continues on through the beast. the first beast. And then in chapter 13, verse 11, we have the second beast, which is freedom-loving, and the lamb-like principles eventually break down, and the dragon's voice rises up and it speaks again.
Mhm.
But the dragon doesn't just like there's not a flick of a switch, so there's a transition. So there's a whole history in Revelation 12 and 13 about the dragon. So let's go back to that and let's see if we can learn some lessons. Let's start with Revelation chapter 12, verse 3.
There appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads.
Right, so here's where the dragon first appears. And when you read the whole chapter, it's pretty clear. Verse 9 talks about the war in heaven, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. That tells me that the primary dragon, the number one dragon, is the devil himself. But the devil also works through systems, governments, people. And so that's why, and we can see that in verse 4, at the end of verse 4, or the middle to the end, it says, the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered to devour her child as soon as it was born. So
there's Satan working through Rome.
That's right.
Through
Yeah,
Herod,
the fulfillment in history of this was that
kill Jesus.
Jesus had been born in Bethlehem, and Herod was notified by the wise men who were looking for the king of the Jews, and he eventually decided, I've got to stop any competitor to my throne.
Right.
So at one point, this is described in Matthew chapter 2, Herod, and it was Satan working through Herod, sent soldiers to Bethlehem to kill all the babies.
Under 2 years old.
Yeah, that's right. We call this the slaughter of the innocents, one of the most heinous crimes in all of history. And all these little babies under 2 years old, they were all killed. And Jesus was but he got out. God gave Joseph a dream.
Right.
You got to get out. As to
Gave
leave.
the wise men a dream, go another route.
That's right. That's right. Go to Egypt, and then the wise men go a different way. So here's a significant point, Rob. This hit me some time ago as I was contemplating the lamb-like beast speaking like a dragon. I went back to Revelation 12. I see here it says the dragon standing before the woman, ready to be delivered to devour her child as soon as it was born. And we know this child is Jesus because in verse 5, she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Her child was caught up to God and to his throne.
Yep.
So this is Jesus for sure. And the devil, through Herod, was trying to wipe out all the babies.
Well, in wiping out the babies, the dragon behind it is trying to wipe out Jesus so he can't go through his ministry and make the sacrifice for the sins of the world.
That's right. But what impressed me, Rob, is that one of the characteristics of the dragon is he slaughters babies. And I can't help but think about America.
Where are we?
Yeah, where are we? And this is part of the issue, in the elections and women's reproductive rights and the freedom to abort your child anytime you believe that this is better for you. And it just, it convicts me that murdering innocent children is dragon-like.
And we as a nation have couched words like reproductive rights for women so that it's kind of stainless. It doesn't seem to be.
It seems sanitary.
Sanitary.
Good.
And
freedom-loving.
The problem people have is that I do believe in a woman's right to her own body, but a baby inside of you is another body.
That's right. It's not your body. It's another body. That's right. And the 10 Commandments, the 6th commandment says, do not murder. And as we're about to see, one of the characteristics of the dragon is not just slaughtering babies, but it's also attacking people who keep the 10 Commandments. We'll see that. So that's a characteristic of the dragon. And then you keep reading, we see another characteristic in verse 13 is persecution. It says, when the dragon saw he was cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman who brought forth the man-child, which takes us down into the history of early Christianity and the Dark Ages. Satan is persecuting God's people through pagan Rome and through papal Rome.
Correct.
That's what happened. Now notice verse 17. Read verse 17.
And the dragon was wroth with the woman, or the church, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ.
Right. What does this tell us about the dragon?
The dragon doesn't like commandment keepers.
That's right. He's against all the commandments. It says he's making war on those who keep not the commandment of God, not just one, but the commandments. When you look at the 10 commandments, they're a unit. Mm-hmm. And Satan is at war with people who keep all 10, and he's against all 10, every one. So when the 6th commandment says don't murder, the dragon is at war with that commandment. The 7th commandment says don't commit adultery, which has to do with a man and a woman being married, the sacredness of marriage, being faithful in marriage, and the whole issue of morality and marriage based on the Bible is the 7th commandment. And Satan, the dragon, is at war with that commandment. So he not only underlies the slaughter of babies, but he also underlies the breaking down of marriage and between a man and a woman and all the sexual immorality that is flooding our country and the world. We can't say, Rob, that the dragon only speaks at the very end. He's involved in warfare against the law of God right now.
And he's been after us to sin since the beginning. Adam and Eve, if you disobey God, you won't die. The first lie ever told. I mean, when I think of the devil or the dragon, the reason he wants us to sin is it separates us from God. Sin separates. That's right. God wants us to come to him and have that unity with God our Father. So just like in the wilderness, what did the devil try to do with Jesus or the dragon? If you're the Son of God, cast yourself down, or turn the bread to the stones to bread. He's wanting Jesus to break the law of God, to break his connection with God.
To have another God before God.
Yeah. So that's his MO.
That's right. So our conviction is that the dragon is at war with all the 10 commandments. He's at war with God. He's at war with his people. He's at war with the law. And as I look at Revelation 13:11, that the second beast would speak as a dragon, and I look at the principles that are being, the teachings and the practices that are happening in this country against babies, the unborn, and against marriage. I believe, based on the context of Revelation 12 before 13, that the dragon's voice, that the influence of the dragon is here.
He's speaking.
Now, that's right. He's speaking. Now, he hasn't completely, we still have the future coming, the final stages of chapter 13, but I don't believe it's correct to put the influence of the dragon only ahead of us when what we're seeing around us is the very activities of the dragon that's described in Revelation chapter 12.
Correct.
That's right. So we're going to take a break. We're going to keep coming back and learn more about America and the dragon. We'll be right back.
White Horse Media's eye-opening books, Satan's First Lie and The Truth About the Sabbath, our pocketbook, God's Final Warning, and our tract about the 3 angels titled Messages from Heaven are excellent resources designed to buy in bulk and give away. White Horse Media has the tools you need to share the truth with your community. God needs you to help fight against Satan and advance his work. You can purchase these items by calling the office or visiting our website at whitehorsemedia.com. Stock up on your copies today.
Do people know what the real issues will be in the final crisis ahead? No, they don't. Through the advancement of technology, people are hearing all kinds of teachings and philosophies that really aren't true. White Horse Media has produced a free online Bible school reaching many souls today. And it's through your generous donations that we've had over 2,500 students enroll. Amazing, you say? But oh, we could do so much more. While there's still time to make a difference, while money still has value, invest in God's kingdom today. I invite you, go to whitehorsemedia.com. You'll be glad you did.
Okay, welcome back to America and the Dragon. We are in Revelation chapter 12 and 13. We just traced some of the history of the dragon in chapter 12. And now, Rob, let's continue on in chapter 13 with the rise of the beast, the first beast. There it says at the end of verse 2 that the dragon gave to the first beast his power and his seat and great authority. So that tells us that the devil, working through pagan Rome, then shifted to working through papal Rome. That's right. And it's interesting that in verse 4, it says, 13:4, they worship the dragon, which gave power to the beast, and they worship the beast. So that clearly shows that the influence of the dragon continued on through the first beast.
That's right.
And then in the second beast, we have another nation coming up, America, which has two horns like a lamb, which is holding on to the principles of religious freedom and truth and goodness. And then it says he spoke as a dragon. So we see the dragon in chapter 12. We see him moving through the beast in chapter 13, the first beast. And then finally he speaks through the second beast in chapter 13, verse 11.
When it says that no man may buy or sell unless they receive the mark, whereas we're going to talk about that, there's going to be legislation and enforcement, dragon talk.
That's right. And there's been dragon talk going on for a while. It's not something that, like we said, just happens at the very end. There's been within America an attack on the sixth commandment from the dragon about murder, which includes even the unborn. The seventh commandment, marriage, Satan's been doing that. The dragon's been attacking marriage. The ninth commandment says don't bear false witness or don't lie. And someone was just sharing with us earlier today that in the workplace, in certain situations, if you don't use the correct pronouns of what a person identifies with, you can lose your job.
So it forces you to lie.
Yeah, it forces you to break the ninth commandment that says don't lie. So if you're a man and you say
I'd like
that you want to be a woman and you want me to call you a she, when you're really not a she, you're a he, and pressure is being put on me to do that, then what is that but the dragon trying to pressure me to break the ninth commandment by not telling the truth? So there's many ways that the dragon works. And then as you keep reading the prophecy, eventually in chapter 13, verse 14, at the end of the verse, it says that the second beast says to them that dwell upon the earth that they should make an image to the beast who had the wound by the sword and did live. So the second beast is telling people to make an image of the first beast who was wounded by the sword, which was papal Rome.
And what is an image of that first beast, but none other than a church-state union?
Yeah. An image is a duplicate. It's a copy. It's like God made man in his own image to reflect his character. And when an image of the beast is set up, this image of the beast then is like the first beast. And so we have to go back to the first beast, and we see that the first beast was a religion that pressured the state to enforce its will. So this is what I see happening, Rob, as we, for lack of a better way to say it, we've been as a nation, we've been swinging to the left.
Yeah.
We have the dragon speaking and attacking the sixth commandment, the seventh commandment, the ninth commandment. And so then we're going to have a swing to the other side where people are going to say, we need to get back to God. That's the answer. We've got to come back to God.
Family, nation.
Yeah, family, nation, God, country, which we do. We do. But the question is, if we're going to come back to God, if we're going to come back to true religion, as we talked about in part 2, which religion are we going to come back to? Are we going to come back to biblical Protestantism that gives people freedom to make a choice? Or are we going to go back to Catholicism that crosses the line and forces people to become religious or enforces religion, which is a violation of the principles of our Constitution.
The danger is we all understand the diagnosis of our country is in trouble. Families in trouble.
That's right.
So many fronts are in trouble. What's the danger is, what is the prescription to solve the trouble?
Exactly. What's the answer? So verse 15 said he had power to give life to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, just like the dragon, and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So there's force now. And let's discuss quickly the idea of Christian nationalism. You mentioned you recently heard an American senator, giving a strong appeal that we are a Christian nation. We need to get back to God.
Yeah. Recently, back in July, Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri, he is a constitutional lawyer. He has quite a bit of influence, and he gave a talk at a Christian conservative conference. I think it was called the trying to remember what that was called. There was a conference that they all got together in Washington, D.C. And he went over the idea that, referencing Augustine, that we need to have a Christian nation. And he even stated in that he believed in that. And so he doesn't realize that Augustine goes back to, like the Puritans, with persecution and things that don't lead to liberty.
That's right. Well, Augustine was the one who developed the philosophy, the theology, that it was legitimate to use persecution, righteous persecution, as a final effort to reform heretics for their own good.
Right.
And that philosophy of Augustine is what led to the Inquisition.
Yeah.
Which led to, you just go on and on, the same principle was exercised in England against the nonconformists and even the Puritans in American history. They did not exercise religious tolerance toward the Quakers. They believed that it was legitimate to persecute them for their own good. And then you've got Roger Williams, who eventually helped to lead America into the First Amendment that denies the right of government to enforce religion. So when Senator Hawley, Josh Hawley, was appealing to Augustine and that we are a Christian nation, we need to get back to our roots, unknowingly, he's really pointing us back to the Dark Ages. He's really pointing us back to becoming like the beast, the first beast of Revelation 13, which is exactly what the text says, that America is going to set up an image of the first beast. And if America ever gets to the point, if Christianity in America ever gets to the point, in the name of revival and coming back to God, that it's legitimate for us to use force to force people according to our ideas of religion, then we've set up an image to the beast. We've gone right back to the Dark Ages, and we are in the final stages of Revelation 13's prophecy.
Josh Hawley, I think, should have given precedence or credence to the founding fathers, to helping us understand that our liberties didn't come from Augustine or the Puritans.
That's right. What we really need to get back to is Jesus, the Lamb, and get back to the principles of the Reformation.
Right.
And get back to the Constitution that was established by our forefathers. Now,
but just that little, we have people today, Steve, that to Senator Boebert, she's a senator who thinks that we should get rid of the church and state separation because of the left and the wokeism that we experience today. It's causing people to forget history and to think that if we could implement laws, Christian nation, Christian laws, that somehow that's the saving of America, when really we're just playing right into the hand of prophecy. Says that it's going to speak as a dragon, and that's where we're headed.
That's right. And it's like a pendulum. We have the dragon working in one direction, and then that is pushing our society so far in the wrong direction that other people respond. And the problem is there's going to be an overreaction. There's going to be an
Unfortunately.
overreaction that this is what we need. In an hour of desperation, people are going to appeal to coming back to God, coming back to the Bible, coming back to Jesus, coming back to our roots, becoming a Christian nation again. But they're going to make a mistake, and they're going to bring us back to the wrong religion, which is the religion of the Dark Ages, which was contributed to by Augustine, which justifies the use of force in implementing religious teachings, which is against what Jesus did. Jesus is the Lamb of God. He never forced people.
Correct.
He said, "My kingdom is not of this world." He said, "He who uses the sword will die by the sword." It was again, that idea is against the principles of the Protestant Reformation that stood in its best for religious freedom. It's against the principles of the United States Constitution, which says Congress shall not make a law to establish religion or prohibit the free exercise thereof, which was not developed to keep God out of America, but it was developed so that America wouldn't descend into the tyranny of religious persecution like what happened during the Dark Ages. And so we need to understand this prophecy, Rob. So I see the dragon speaking on the one side and people overreacting, and then they're going to lead to the dragon speaking on the other side. And it's really the same dragon. It's the same dragon working subtly to ultimately fight the law of God, to fight the sixth commandment, the seventh commandment, the ninth commandment, and the true God of the Bible. It's interesting, in Daniel 11, it talks about the king of the north, which is a parallel to the beast, and it says that he would follow the God of forces. So when people say we need to come back to God, but let's use force, that's the wrong God. It's the God of the Dark Ages. It's the God of Romanism that justifies persecution, and it's contrary to the principles of the Lamb.
Nothing has changed. There's nothing new under the sun. The devil tried to destroy Daniel. You remember in the fiery furnace? That was Nebuchadnezzar establishing religion on the plains of Dura. And if you don't bow down, you get thrown in the furnace. And then Daniel chapter 6, you have the three worthies. Daniel chapter 6, you have the lion's den, the leaders deceiving the king, thinking if he'll make a law, establishing, and it prohibited Daniel from worshiping his God according to his conscience, thrown into the lion's den.
That's right.
And so those are examples of how the devil is always on that edge of trying to get governments to have people break God's
That's right.
law.
And the final manifestation of the dragon voice in Revelation 13 is in verses 16 and 17, the enforcement of the mark of the beast. And Rob, that's what we're going to tackle in part 4. We've got one more part to get into that part. We know who the first beast is. We know what the second beast is. We hear the voice of the dragon speaking now, and that voice is going to get louder until it urges people to set up an image of the beast and enforce the mark of the beast, which is against the principles of the Lamb. And so if you want to learn more about the final act of the drama, about the mark of the beast, that'll be part 4, the grand finale. So we hope that you'll stick with us. Pray for White Horse Media. Check out our Bible school, whitehorsemediabibleschool.com. Pray to Jesus that you'll follow the Lamb and not the dragon.